like with hip hop, I know like you have your barbershop conversations like who's the greatest or whatever, but it's only like relegated to barbershops, and it's never like applied like in a very serious manner. Like, well, who is the greatest, and how do we determine who the greatest is? But I think we can do that. I think now we could look at who the greatest is, and I think if we develop like a criteria, and first and foremost develop a reference point, and then develop a criteria, we can now very objectively determine who belongs where as far as like in what category, what tier, or whatever you want to call it. And I think if we need a reference point in hip hop, I think if we could set our bias aside, I think we have to acknowledge that Jay-Z is the greatest. Now, before you guys speak, Jay-Z isn't my favorite rapper. Kendrick is. All right. I still think there are a lot of rappers who are more raw than Jay-Z lyrically. DMX, like more aggressive, more raw. Who can flow on a beat better. Biggie. I think there are people who tell a better story, Kendrick. But I think if we look at hip hop in its totality and what Jay-Z has accomplished,
right, for sure,
we have to acknowledge Jay-Z as the greatest rapper.
Yeah.
Period.
I say A greatest. A greatest for sure.
Okay, but
I can't pick one.
You can't have more than one GOAT. You can have a lot of greatest, but you can't have more than one the GOAT. The GOAT is an individual base. You can't have more than one.
Yeah.
So who is the GOAT? Who is the GOAT?
I mean,
Pop.
Real quick, before we go into this, let me tell you why Jay-Z is the greatest. Then I'm sure we'll dig into it. So I looked at Jay-Z's career, right, and I looked at what he's accomplished. His first album came out in '96, right? Reasonable Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in the game for about 20 plus years, right? Yeah. Some serious longevity, okay? But I developed a criteria based off essentially, Jay-Z's career, like I said. So commercial success, which is important because we look at commercial success. We attach that to success, right?
Yeah,
Michael
definitely.
Jordan, 6 rings, $1 billion. We see that as a success. We could look at the box office when they do filmmaking. We see box office success. So we do attach, a lot of people liking your success or a lot of people liking your stuff to success, right? So commercial success is one. Critical success, which is a little bit more subjective, a little bit more bland.
Is it good?
Are we still going? Okay. Which is critical success, which is a little bit more bland, but critical success is obviously Mos Def, like Common, Nipsey, Kendrick, people who can spit and you can really hear, huh? Ghostface.
Yeah.
Critical success is like a lot of people don't buy it, but the people who actually listen to hip hop, we can say, yeah, that's hot. Like Lil Uzi, we're not gonna say he's a critical success, right? I think we all collectively agree that a Lil Yachty or a Lil Uzi, they're not critically acclaimed artists, right? Could we agree on that at least?
Yeah.
But we could say like a Common or a Rakim are critically successful artists. They may not have enjoyed the same commercial success, but we can say, listen, their album was worth the wait. The content, the lyrical ability, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's how we.
That's one of the categories. So commercial success,
I understand.
critical success, and then we go to cultural impact, for better or for worse, right?
Okay.
And I think you can differentiate hip hop music from hip hop culture, right? Like Nelly Air Force Ones came out. Like how many people got forces after that song?
Everybody.
Well, yeah.
Crazy, right? I mean that's culture. Fitted.
I had about 20 pair of them.
Right.
We did that twice too. I don't know if
Yeah,
people
with
like
Jordans,
that,
yeah.
too.
Without nobody really.
I mean, that speaks for itself though.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you push the culture in any direction, for better or for worse, that's a cultural impact, and that can determine your place in hip hop.
Yeah,
and Jay-Z's
definitely.
pushed the culture along with many others, but it's more than one. So that's the third criteria, right? Culture impact. The fourth, I have longevity. Obviously, Jay-Z being in the game for 20 plus years, et cetera, right? And still being relevant. Well, let me just get through this. Which leads into my next point. Music relevancy, right? So you look at somebody like Chameleonaire, who is probably still relevant for his technological aspirations, but he's not musically relevant anymore. Like nobody's rocking that one song he had, Ride and Dirty. Nobody's playing it anymore, right? If he drops an album, nobody's checking for it. So you can be relevant, but it needs to be musical, all right? You need to be able, like Jay-Z dropped 444, it charted. Did it chart as well as a Blueprint 3? I don't know, it doesn't really matter because people were hearing about it. He had a commercial at the Super Bowl. So as much as Jay-Z is still relevant culturally and other, avenues, he's very much relevant musically because he drops an album, people go buy it.
Right. I see.
right? If a tree falls in the forest and you're there and you hear it, it made a sound. If it doesn't, or if you're not there,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
like,
for sure.
you know, if somebody releases a diss track and nobody cares about them, who cares? Nobody cares. And the second one is, or the fifth one is ability. Obviously, lyrical ability. Lyrical ability versus song making ability. And I think if you look at the context of hip hop, how hip hop was founded, it was really about bars, right? Who has the hottest bar, most savage bar? Who can, you know, flip that word, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to incorporate lyrical ability, but I think you can combine lyrical ability to critical success. And then I have the final one, which is the evolution of content, which to me simply means, as Jay-Z's done, talking about more than one thing. Like if I listen to Jay-Z's blueprint, pretty much 1, 2, and 3. He's flexing, he's talking shit, whatever. And then you listen to 444, and he's talking about, you know, his dog, a will, right?
Yeah.
You know, by investing, right?
Credit.
You know, credit, entrepreneurship. And I think Jay-Z is probably the greatest example of somebody in hip hop.
Artistic value.
Right. And I think, you know, if we look at entrepreneurship, then, you know, Jay-Z is number one, and then, you know, Nipsey probably falls right behind as far as, you know, entrepreneurship ability, entrepreneurial ability to do
Does
more.
Diddy
than
count as a rapper?
Yeah,
Diddy, no,
Because I feel like he might fall in.
he doesn't because
he's more like a business.
Yeah, plus
like
Diddy had a lot of ghostwriters.
He did rap. He did rap.
Jay-Z wrote for Diddy.
I mean,
Right. So if you have a ghostwriter, like
Dr.
for the majority
Dre?
of your,
What about Dr.
Eminem
Dre?
wrote for Dr. Dre.
I mean, a lot of people wrote for Dr. Dre.
I mean,
Right.
honestly, yeah.
But if we're only talking about
Ice Cube wrote for Eazy-E. Does that not make him a rapper?
huh?
I said Ice Cube wrote for Eazy-E.
Ice Cube wrote for
Yeah.
Eazy.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of rappers
But
get written
he
for.
wrote some stuff
Right,
himself too.
but what do we mainly know Diddy for? Producing, right? His producer acumen.
Yeah, for
What do we
sure.
know Dre for? His producer acumen. So anyway, that's the criteria I
Diddy
have.
for dancing.
And I think Jay-Z embodies every category. So I think if we use Jay-Z as a reference point as the GOAT, and which some of you guys agree that he's not the GOAT, we'll get into that. I think if we were to assume that Jay-Z is the GOAT, every other rapper that comes along before and after, we have to measure them against Jay-Z's criteria, which is obviously critical success, commercial success, cultural impact, longevity, lyrical ability, and musical relevance, and evolution of content. We have to measure them against pretty much Jay-Z at the gold standard.
Right.
So, you agree Jay-Z was the GOAT, right? Like if you, I mean,
As a whole,
I
I personally believe Jay-Z's a GOAT.
Okay.
Because like
Twan?
just have to statistically.
I concur.
Miguel.
I can't argue with him, man.
And I'm going with Julian last because you
I
said
knew,
no,
already.
and we need to know why.
Well, I mean, you bring a lot of categories up that certain people can't fit into those categories. You
that's
can't
true.
put Tupac in. He passed away. You know what I'm saying?
But-
there's
but
certain
no, but-
there's certain depths that I feel like Jay-Z didn't touch that Tupac only touched,
sure,
and maybe
definitely.
Kendrick now
Definitely.
is doing.
Let me interrupt
know
you
what I
right
mean?
here. Just because I named Jay-Z the GOAT, it doesn't mean I'm not saying Tupac's a legend.
No,
Because what happened is,
yeah.
I think Tupac, and I personally think there are only about 5 legends in hip hop. But I said we should use Jay-Z as the GOAT because
I see
we need a reference point.
because of the categories.
Yeah, we need a reference point.
I understand.
But I think Tupac is great. And I'll go into who I think's a legend. But I think you have tiers. I think you have like a legendary tier, then you have like a tier 1, a tier 2, and like a tier 3.
Yeah.
So that's how, you know. But
then we bring up the longevity part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
what
in
I'm
that
talking about.
case, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of people get X'd
Jordan
out.
had a 6 season run
I was about to say that.
of
Like,
championships.
that's kind of what it correlates
Bill
to
Russell,
like sports. You know
Bill
what I'm saying?
Russell,
You got rings, bro.
Bill
You
Russell
gonna be
had
the GOAT
11.
for
Look,
like long
no,
consistency.
but look at this.
period
Bill
of time.
Russell had 11. He
But
had
who
11
considers Bill
championships.
GOAT? Who consider Bill Russell the GOAT though?
They're not, but that's because they're not bringing the longevity part. They're
That's
bringing
yeah.
the impact that Michael Jordan had during that
How
time.
you switched up the game.
Exactly, during that time.
We can't say
You know what
that. I
I'm
switched
saying?
up the game for.
But then again,
ever.
Bill Russell, bro, he was.
And not only that, but he was coaching.
But let's take it
He
back to hip
coached
hop
as
though.
well.
Let's
He coached a couple of those
let's take it back
while
to hip
playing.
hop. Let's take it back to hip hop.
Pretty much, it sounds like now, but he's ringing.
Nah.
I'm reading your shirt. Just a woke of the period.
Stay woke apparel. I see you, Janae.
All right. So will you acknowledge Jay-Z as the gold standard, at least as a reference point to measure any
For what
artist?
we're talking about, yeah, we can do
All
that
right,
for
boom.
sure.
So now,
For sure.
if we can adopt that, then we can move on
Yeah.
and get into some juicy shit, right?
Yeah, no, I understand.
So how do we start this? I mean, we have Jay-Z as our guy. I guess I'll kick it off by saying Tupac and Biggie are in my category of legend, but I think there's an asterisk with the Tupac and Biggie. I think because they died young, and I think if you die before your peak or at your peak, you know, you kind of martyr, right? You become a martyr, and I think that makes you bigger than what you probably would have been.
Right.
Like I think Biggie and Tupac's, you know, legend. You know, they're going to be forever linked. You know, no matter how you pit it, you can't mention Biggie without Tupac, no matter what coach you're from.
Yeah.
I think Tupac would have been up there with a J now. I don't think Biggie would have been. I think Biggie, he was lyrically great, but we've seen like a lot of great rappers. Great. But he didn't, like, when Tupac died, he had some movies, right?
No, of course, definitely.
You know, he was talking about, you know, society, you know, so he was on his cultural tip. You know, I think Tupac probably would have did what a Jay-Z did or 50 did, you know, get the shoe deal, right? Do what a Dre did, get the tech deal.
I feel like Tupac would have been more of like a...
Whereas like Jay-Z's more entrepreneurial, Tupac would have made more of an impact.
Well, Jay-Z had 13 albums though, you know. So
I don't know. Like Tupac seemed like he was going towards film. You know what I'm saying? Like
film,
that was like,
so do you think Tupac would have been like more of a Mos Def, or do you think he would have been
no,
more of a Will Smith?
I don't think there would have. I don't think there's anybody we could compare him to. Not even Will Smith.
I think Tupac just would have stopped doing music.
Really?
Eventually.
Maybe acting-wise, Will Smith, but he was touching on so many other things.
Yeah,
so many other lanes.
I mean, as far as rap goes, you know what I'm saying? Like they were obviously two different.
Not just rap, but he was involved with like movements. You know what I'm saying?
Who's
like Nipsey? He's like involved with. Well, he was involved with. You know what I'm saying?
Nipsey had his hand in everything, bro.
Like so many community
They were two
things,
different
you know
people.
what I'm saying?
I feel you. Oh God, their goals were different.
I feel like what Nipsey was doing is very similar to what Tupac was doing and what he would.
I think Nipsey actually executed. I think Tupac talked about it a lot.
But Pac helped with peace treaties. He was
peace treaties. What do you mean?
There's the peace treaty. When was the peace treaty?
Pac was a little
93?
different than Nipsey though. Like
it was after the riots.
Oh, okay, all right.
His approach was different than Nipsey. I think Nipsey was easier to work with because Pac was very, very emotional, very like, you know what I'm saying, very out there. Maybe he wasn't as easy to talk to as Nipsey was. You know what I'm saying? Nipsey might have been very approachable by people.
But Pac was in with liberation parties and the Panthers and even while he was a rapper.
But I think Nipsey's smarter than Pac in that regard. Then
I think the way that Nipsey carried himself.
It could be like that. I'm saying
because he wasn't
for
all
people
about
of all walks of life. It might have been people who were scared to talk to Pac just because of the type of person he was. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, but it could have Pac. I feel like you never know like who you gonna get. Like I seen interviews of Pac, he was just like a chill, calm person. Like you know, talking real nice. But I seen other interviews where he like
turning up. You know what I'm saying? Looking like he was about to slap somebody.
If I see Pac, I'm like, bro.
But if you
never know who you gonna
get.
I don't know who all the time.
Not to say that that's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? But that was just him. That's who he was. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like for people like that, it's harder to.
It's harder to talk.
It's not harder to talk to, but it's easier to get the media to go against you. You know what I'm saying? It's easier for you to get.
Well, you got to play the
media,
game. But you got to play the game though. I mean, you got to be smart.
I mean, the media plays a big part.
Come on, there's a reason. There's a reason Jesse Jackson was at Tupac's bedside. You know what I'm saying? And Jesse Jackson at the time, was represent what. I don't even know who we could compare in the black community right now.
I mean,
I'm
not saying that Pac wasn't. Like, I'm just saying as far as like,
as far as
what you're saying, as far as like, of course he's a legend, of course.
I feel like it was a lot of things that we didn't have social media. It was a lot of things we didn't see. But you can go back and you can see at the events that Tupac was speaking, that he was speaking at, the people that he was around, the people that his family was associated with, the people that were involved with him.
Like I like talking to people about like Pac and Biggie, like the niggas that was like involved in that time, like my other homies, like them niggas, like they. Like,
who spits better bars, like Biggie or Pac?
Pac. I mean, not Pac, Biggie for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Pac had better songs.
I think it's only because people only judge that based on the most popular Tupac songs. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to the Machiavelli album. Yeah. I don't hear that same depth in Biggie's albums. Biggie had wordplay and he had flow.
But well, that's what we're talking about.
But it's not just.
So you're looking for depth, right?
But it wasn't just that.
I know, but
that's a big part of it. Yeah.
I feel you. As far as depth goes,
and that's evolution of content, though.
That's why depth is why I feel like people don't appreciate To Pimp a Butterfly the way they appreciate Good Kid, Mad City.
Nah, I love
To Pimp a Butterfly.
To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah, I thought that was a better album.
That's a better album.
Most people don't look at it like that. I feel like all the depth in Good Kid, Mad City.
That meant more sure.
Good Kid,
He
Mad City
already
was the most watered down album that Kendrick had.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Nobody
watered
looks
down
at it like
album.
that.
It was the most
Besides
watered
us,
down.
because we've been listening, nobody looks at it like that.
All
So
right,
Pimp a
Overly
Butterfly,
dedicated, overly
Section 80
dedicated.
was
Kendrick
better
Lamar
than,
EP.
was better.
Section
hey,
Eight.
check it out.
Section
Check it
80.
out. Let's bring it back real quick. Let's bring it back.
Shit.
All right. Okay. So we got Pac and Big and Jay-Z right now as legends. Who else is a legend?
Drake.
I know you didn't.
Wait.
Drake.
Drake. Okay, but real quick. All right. So Drake. No, let me finish.
Before
So
Nas?
Drake.
He is.
But check it out.
Before Nas?
Real-
He the next Jay-Z, bro.
Real quick, Drake hasn't put in enough time in. At the end of the day, will Drake be a legend? Sure, but right now,
No.
for conversational purposes,
But think about
I
it.
think he a legend.
No, but for
When
conversational
Black
purposes,
when Black Album came out, were we calling Jay-Z a legend?
the Black Album came out in
2004.
2000, yeah,
2004.
Yeah. Because he was already.
He was
I think
retiring.
it
It was Encore.
Yeah.
They were saying he was a
Bro,
legend.
after Encore,
That's
it
8
was
years
a
in.
wrap.
He was 8 years
Yeah.
in. Drake is
2000 and.
Drake like 10, 11.
After the
I think.
96 to
Alright,
2004. That's
after the
8
Blueprint,
years,
it
and he was a
like-
legend already.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Drake has been doing it for 10 years, been #1 every year.
But here's the thing
Sounds
about
like
that.
the
Here's the thing
next-
about
I
that.
mean, you
gotta
When
keep
we-
that in
when we
mind.
look at it, we like to.
a good point.
If you're having a solid run, and Jay-Z was having a solid run, we'd like to just anoint legendary
Let's just
status.
do it like this. Let's just grade it off if they died now.
Well,
If Drake died now, would he be a
Legend.
legend?
right, but the thing
Why
is,
does it take for you to die to become a legend?
No, I'm just saying, like,
No,
'cause that
that's a
cuts
whole
off the
other
timeline.
conversation.
Because that
Yeah.
cuts off the timeline. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, we talking about right now. We having this thing right now. You know what I'm saying? So, if Drake never made another album again,
Is he a
would he
legend?
be a legend?
Of
Yeah.
course.
He got to be in the category.
Okay.
He got to be in there.
Fair
I
enough.
feel like it's people that's going up. You be like, yo, if he keep doing what he
Yeah.
doing, he might get
He
there.
might get
But
there,
Drake
oh
has already
God.
done all of that already. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like, no matter how you feel about his personal, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Who he is.
I just think it should be
whatever,
more
yeah.
time.
We ain't
But
gonna get into all that,
I
bro.
think he hasn't.
I think it's because of the age of
longevity.
hip hop. Now we
Hip-hop-
expect more time before we give legendary status.
Well, yeah, hip hop's
Yeah.
about 50 years old. But
Yeah.
but we do tend to get, like, if somebody's having a solid run, we say they're a legend now. But I think if we define it as, okay, if they died now, are they a legend? If we just do that, then yeah, Drake's a legend,
Yeah.
and so is Kendrick.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because
hands
to
down,
me,
for sure.
To Pimp a Butterfly,
Yeah.
listen, that's a dense album. I had to listen to it like twice.
And I feel like the
a
next
great
Kendrick album,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get ahead of myself or his, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like that next album is really gonna solidify
Yes,
him.
bro. It's gonna be.
You know what I'm saying?
It's gonna be.
Like,
I feel like
fire.
if Kendrick,
To
I
people
feel like if
us,
his next
it's
album
already
is
solidified.
trash,
But I've walked up to people
somehow-
before, like, oh, have you heard of Kendrick before? Like, nah.
Bro, I
You
feel
know
like
what I'm
it-
saying? Like they hear of him, you know what I'm saying? But they talking about Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was talking about To Pimp a
You wanna know
Butterfly
the funny thing?
as far as people outside of hip hop, and that's why I feel like your legendary status makes you a legend. Is when people outside of
Yeah,
hip hop
for
can
sure.
recognize you.
Of course,
sure.
I mean,
Right.
Kendrick
You know
won
what I'm saying? Like,
a
that's when-
Pulitzer.
I feel like Kendrick's a
Right.
legend.
Yeah,
If he makes a
exactly.
trash album, if his next album is trash, he's still a legend.
Okay, real quick about that. So
I think.
after Kendrick released
In
Damn,
hip hop,
Nobody brought up Kanye.
we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
and I'm cool with that.
But after Kendrick released Damn, I was
Bro.
but
Oh my God.
let me
forgot about
finish. Let me finish. I was wondering to myself, I'm like, can Kendrick compete with Drake on a commercial
Yes.
level? Let me finish.
Me too.
Let me finish. You know, I was wondering that, you know, because I love Kendrick. I'm like, but I don't think he could do it. I don't think he can make like a commercial album.
Right.
But then I listened to the Black Panther soundtrack,
That album.
and I
That
think
shit was the
and I
bomb.
think
You know what?
That shit was
I
awesome
think
as
that
hell.
Black Panther
That Black
soundtrack,
Panther album was
I think
awesome
you
as
can
fuck.
put that against any Drake album, and I think that, which is produced by Kendrick, is essentially
Yeah.
Kendrick. I think that album,
That was awesome.
you can match it up commercially with any Drake album,
I-
and you can have a solid.
I think
feel like only
maybe
album-
sonically, and maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah.
quality of the songs, but
I feel like only album.
Drake has a
not
certain
sales,
type of
not sales,
not just sales, but
But-
it's certain the way that
it's
Drake's
the-
hits
yeah.
cater to the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
a
seen
certain
like the rise of the
push.
city girls and this
Yeah.
whole culture within that group. You know
I
what I'm
feel
saying?
like-
Yeah.
And then he capitalized on that with
Yeah.
the what's the song?
Well, that's-
in
that's-
my
that-
feelings.
that-
in my
that-
feelings.
same thing with the
and then the
Migos,
dance
too.
crazes.
Same
Okay,
thing with the
Instagram is
Migos.
booming. We're gonna get these dance crazes.
I feel
Drake
like it's
is different.
Like,
well, that's
different.
more that's marketing as well.
Drake-
I mean,
yeah, well,
that's
that's a
striking the
huge
right.
part
No,
of
it is. But if we just look at
But
if we just take marketing, we know Drake sells. We know his album does really well. We know he's the king of stream. But if we just take all that at the table and say, does this album sound as good?
Right.
Not necessarily does it have as much depth, but does it sound as good? And that's what I meant. Like I think the
Okay.
Black Panther soundtrack,
Yeah.
it sounds as
You
good.
could play
I
the
think
same. You could play the music in the same
that,
setting
that
as the
track
Drake
number
music.
5 with what is it?
SOBRB. He's heavy in the street, paramedics in the street.
Yo,
Yeah.
and then he has that African joint. Like I think it's like tracks.
Oh, yeah,
Personally,
that shit was interesting.
I think only album
Play
that
right
Kendrick
Yeah.
commercially
can't.
competed with Drake
Copyright.
is Damn.
Copyright,
Commercially
man.
competed with Drake because I feel like
Which
Drake,
one, Damn?
Yeah,
No, I love Damn.
I feel like
Yeah,
the
that's
only
where I
one.
thought she was going with it
that
too.
could,
is because-
that could compete because Drake he put like such like a mixture of like everything to make it sound like to the culture, but then to also make it sound commercial to where it's on the radio and it, you know what I'm saying? It's
But
always
even
hitting.
on Damn still, even though there was commercial tracks, most of the tracks weren't commercial.
No. I feel
I feel like
only
I'm
three.
surprised the
I
U2.
feel like you gotta
I'm
cater to
surprised the
yourself,
XXX
too.
wasn't bigger because it had U2 on it.
think
And
it-
U2
Well,
is
it's
one
not
of
a
the
commercial joint.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's U2 though, and they didn't make commercial joints,
the
but
song
they
with
had diamond
Rihanna,
records.
the song
you know
with
what I'm saying?
Zachary and Humble is probably
Yeah.
are probably the only like commercial like you could
Yeah.
bang this in a club, right?
That loyalty too.
Pride,
Yeah.
loyalty, and Humble.
Yeah.
I think.
Why are we?
Love.
Why are we
Love.
leaving
Love
out
work.
Yeah,
Wait.
love was.
No, love.
Give me
that
a
was the
rub
best
on
one.
my
Okay, so
for-
what's Pride then?
That was the best one for.
Pride wasn't commercial.
Okay, yeah. So
That
love,
was the best one for commercial.
love, loyalty,
Love.
and Humble.
And maybe I'm gonna make it look sexy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dang,
that's my thing.
Element.
Sexy.
That's Element, bro.
Element.
Yeah.
That's not a
That's-
commercial joint. You can't play
What?
that.
Nah,
you can't,
bro.
You can't play,
It was going up in the club, bro. It was going up.
You can't play that at your daughter's birthday party.
Yeah, I would.
You can't play a lot of commercial stuff at
What
your
about J.
birthday.
Cole, though? J.
Okay,
Cole's
all right,
that man.
real quick. So
J. Cole.
Kendrick is legend if he died today.
You can't.
Yeah.
J. Cole.
J. Cole, he
J.
finally,
Cole,
he is.
that man, bro.
he finally proved that he could do commercial
Now
shit.
he's the legend
It took
for sure.
it took
All
him
right,
a
he died
long
today.
I think you gotta look at rap as
That nigga's a
the
legend,
same
bro.
as you look at sports, bro. It's all
Yeah.
about how you do in your era. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
for
saying? Like it's
Thank
all
you.
about it's
Literally just like that.
It's all about how you doing it. And right now,
It's about
Cole,
adapting.
Kendrick, and Drake
Or
are
kill
Right,
running
and
the
they're
game. You know what I'm
legends,
saying? It's
right.
them three. So
Well, the thing is, but like you got to be careful with that because there was a time when Flip Murray from the Pistons, where he was the league's leading scorer. Okay.
Yeah, but leading scorer,
Right.
like-
but what I'm saying is that we're not going to look at a Kenyon Martin when in his era and say, oh
But
yeah,
everybody
that's a
got to
legend.
run.
Yeah,
When was
yeah.
Flip, when was Flip Murray the leading scorer?
yeah, and,
Like
and-
2005.
Oh,
and
Wait,
what
now
year?
you're mixing something up.
No, I swear to God.
And when did he
It wasn't
for
Flip
a
Murray.
month. For
For a month. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
I mean, Tony Delk was putting up 30 in a month for the Suns.
no,
one
what I'm
time.
saying is like let's not get caught up in
Yeah,
like
Ruben
what somebody
Patterson was
is
the Kobe
just doing.
style.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I feel what you're saying, but to piggyback off what he said, I feel like it's really about like if you're in your era and like you eating and you find a way to create like banger songs with lyrical substance, it's like as a whole. That's
But
what
can you do
separates
it on a
the
consistent
people.
basis?
Yes,
and
exactly.
that determines that
Exactly.
you're good at it.
That's
You got to be
obviously
able
it.
to do it. Jay-Z
Yeah.
for 10 years. Drake
10 plus.
Drake is gonna go. I think Kendrick has the ability to be a legend. If he died right now, do I put him in a legendary category? I personally would say no, because there is no longevity, and we don't know if Kendrick can go for another 10 years. We don't know
Yeah,
that.
but
there's no evidence to say that that can happen.
He spaces
Cole
out.
showed
He
up.
spaces out his. You know what I'm saying? His albums a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like Drake, he probably doing it
So-
like Kendrick.
So
he gonna take like a
saying
year
that,
and a
I
half
think
to
Kendrick's
like.
a legend.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I think so too.
So saying what you saying, like as far as like, can
Drake
you name
gave us more music
somebody
already.
else that you would compare Kendrick to that wasn't a legend that did what he did as of right now?
Compare Kendrick to?
Yeah. Somebody that's done what he's done, but it doesn't make it into the.
Well, I think, listen, there's only so many hip hop artists that's done like crazy like original things. Like Jay-Z performed at a festival in Scotland, I think the Galsberry Festival. It's a traditional alternative rock
Right.
festival.
Uh-huh.
All right, breakthrough for hip hop. Drake at ESPY Awards. Any breakthrough for hip hop. Kendrick won the Pulitzer. Breakthrough for hip
He
hop.
didn't do that bad either, dude.
Right.
At the
So these are
thought
breakthrough for
he was
hip hop.
funny.
So
yeah, he didn't do too bad.
what I'm saying is that these artists, they've had very distinct breakthroughs. But you can't. I wouldn't compare Kendrick to anybody because no other rapper has won a Pulitzer Award, ever.
Yeah.
Kendrick.
That's what
Honestly,
I'm saying.
he should have beat Taylor Swift
I bring
for
that up.
album of the year.
Yeah, of course.
should've won.
Yeah.
I don't listen to Taylor Swift, so I didn't know how good her album was. You know what I'm saying?
No artist has performed at the Grammys like he performed. Right, so there is no other artist like Kendrick. But I'm saying is like, can Kendrick continue his run for the next 10 years? If so, he's a legend. If he can't, we have to take notice of that, okay? Because
Okay, think about this.
but
Does
before
he have to though? Let's say
he does.
he quits.
He does. He
Let's
does.
say he quits.
No, because we already adopted that. Okay, this is the criteria, and Jay-Z sets the criteria at 20 years.
My thing about Kendrick,
adopted that, okay?
So
So
he
we can't-
kind of makes the like.
Yeah, but does
and
everyone
I gotta
have
be
to go
20
20 years to be considered a legend though? What if
Yeah,
they-
because our reference point is Jay-Z, so everybody has to
I
go
gotta
20
like.
years.
So
I
you
gotta
have
be.
to live up to that standard.
You have to hit certain. You have.
But no one does that.
I feel like the second
you know what I'm
tier
saying?
under
Like
Jay-Z
that's
has to be-
unheard of. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
going
It
20
can't
years,
depend on
like
longevity.
Kanye is essentially hitting 20 years right about now, right?
No.
nah.
Kanye
he's at-
first album
He's
came
at
out.
16.
Yeah,
16.
I'm about to say. Like
Kanye
15.
drops Yandi in the next 2 years. He drops
Yeah.
Yala in the next 4.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Kanye is going to be.
When did Kanye drop? In 2000?
2000.
Okay, which brings me to my next
2003,
question.
dropped out.
Kanye, is he a legend? Is he a
2004,
legendary
actually.
rapper?
Shit.
Rapper,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nah,
say
I don't
maybe,
think
would
so,
say
bro. I'm
maybe
not
as
gonna
far as
front.
like a
So you
producer.
said-
Producing, I
yes.
think so.
All right, so you say yeah. You say no. Why?
Because I just think his consistency level like fell off
He
after a
hasn't been
while.
consistent.
All right, okay. So here's the thing about
If
that.
anything,
Like,
Kanye
you
is
have
what
to
you
be
said.
consistent, bro,
Is what you
no matter
said
what.
Kendrick would have been. Is what Kendrick is now before he fell off. To me,
And I think that's
4
why
albums
Kendrick take
in,
his
Kanye
time on
was
this
killing
album,
the game, bro. College dropout, a late registration, graduation, and 808s.
808 Heartbreak.
After 808s, to me,
Yeah.
Trash.
it's over.
But
it's done. You know what I'm
but
saying?
here's what happened. Here's what happened. So you get into this like subjective area where it's like, okay, I didn't like the album. Kanye's not great. But the thing is, every artist goes through a period of discovery, right?